Hello, hello, hello. Hope everyone is having a wonderful Thursday. I feel like this is a back to school week. Nick, how are you doing?
Big time. I've got my back to school outfits planned for the entire week. I'm wearing my vintage 1998 Cannes Film Festival shirt. For those in the advertising industry, you know the significance of Cannes.
But that is the film festival, not the Lions
I
Festival.
know, a little cooler. I think I got Richard Gere up here. Pretty exciting stuff. But I mean, the Creativity Festival is pretty cool too.
It is pretty cool. But we are now officially in back to school season at Vayner. I feel like our back to school is really the day after Labor Day. Everybody gets back. All the clients want to start talking about what's next for the year. All the offsites are happening. And we couldn't think of a better time to kick off a little back to school book club with our favorite book, Day Trading Attention. I'm Avery Akkineni, the Chief Marketing Officer at Vayner, joined here by Nick Dio, who is one of the longest running employees of Vayner.
I know. I think I'm top 15 now, which puts me a little over 12 and a half years. I lead Gary's relationships on the core relationships team, which just is a fancy way of saying that I make sure that Gary is represented in rooms that he's not currently in. And I help manage all of the fun, exciting relationships with talent and executives and investors and people that are doing exciting things in the world.
And making sure that that provides value to Vayner clients, which is a big deal. So the reason I thought Nick is going to be a perfect person to kick off the DTA back to school book club is that he actually got a special shout out in this book. This is Gary's acknowledgement section where he thanks certain people at Vayner, including many of our wonderful colleagues who helped make this book a reality.
And clients.
And he gives Nick a big shout out in it. So Nick, I want to interview you right now over the next 20 minutes of what day trading attention really is and why it matters to modern marketers.
Yeah, I think there's an element of this that's outside of the book that is really exciting, which is the culture component. You can see down at the bottom, one of the bigger acknowledgements and shout outs is from Michael Rubin, who references the book. And
CEO of VaynerX.
And it's been pretty fun to watch culturally how Michael has penetrated pop culture in a bunch of different ways for fanatics. And I think that culture component is one of those intangible things that people don't necessarily know how to compartmentalize within their marketing strategy. And it's something that Gary's deployed my help with over the last few years. So I think culture is a big part of this. But when it comes to day trading attention, this has been a platform that Gary's talked about for the past 5 or 6 years. He's often fancied himself as a modern day trader, and not of a commodity or a resource, but actually maybe the most scarce commodity today, which is our attention and consumer attention, and how brands can leverage that attention towards the goals and objectives of their businesses and companies.
All right, let's get right into chapter one. Chapter one, I don't know if this was officially coined by Gary, but Gary for many years has been talking about the TikTokification of social media. This week, I read a fantastic article in Marketing Dive about how CPG brands are reinventing themselves on social media through this TikTokification of what's happening on social. Gary's been talking about this for a while. What does he mean by TikTokification of social media?
It might, because this book came out in May of 2024, at the time, this was a bit of a novel idea, but because of the speed of culture and innovation on these social platforms today, it's almost like we have amnesia and we forgot about it. There was a time where only TikTok was doing short form swipeable content. That was it. TikTok was the only platform previously, Musical.ly, was doing short form swipeable content, video content specifically. And what we watched happen over an 18-month period is every other single social platform merged to this short form swipeable video content. Every single platform. So you've got YouTube Shorts, you've got Instagram Reels, you've got Facebook Reels. Even there's discovery pages within X, formerly Twitter. LinkedIn is finally making their move towards video first swipeable content.
I know our LinkedIn fam is watching this. LinkedIn loves our webinar. So, hey, LinkedIn fam, thank you for tuning in.
And it's so exciting to kind of like see every single platform adopt that. But it's why Gary calls it the TikTokification of social media, is because every single social platform has moved in the direction of short form video content.
I think what you're covering off is that platform shift, that short form video, like vertical swipe. which absolutely has penetrated everything. But the second piece of that is really the shift away to the non-follower era. The way that social media worked when you joined Vayner was that brands or individuals would amass followers, and a certain percentage of those followers would see what we posted, right? Now that's different. This example here of Dogface drinking the cranberry juice, did Dogface have millions of followers when that video went viral?
He did not.
So how did that happen?
I think this is a really, Avery gets back to like the OG roots and origins here of these social platforms. But there was a time where Meta and Facebook previously, there was a big move to create groups. So Facebook
groups are kind of back.
They are. No, groups are very back. But brands would create pages, and then their whole agenda or initiative was to acquire more followers of a specific page. And then overnight, reach went to zero on those pages, and they were forced into the direction of using advertising dollars to get people to see their content. What's funny is after that probably 6-year window from, let's call it 2014 to 2020, we're now going back in the other direction where organic content and the reach and distribution of that content is superseding the reach that you can get from paid media. And Dogface in this scenario, because of the nostalgia around the Stevie Nicks song, because of the kind of the iconic, ocean spray cranberry juice, because of the emotion of riding a longboard skateboard and the freedom that it was emoting, it just kind of hit all of these, let's call them like nerves within culture and consumer behavior and nostalgia. And for that reason, people watched that video over and over and over again, and they shared it with friends and colleagues and family members. And that wheel sends this signal to the platforms that we need to serve this video up to more people and increase its distribution at a zero cost to the creator of it, which then propelled his career into this person that was able to ride this wave of organic social reach and distribution till today.
Yeah, and it's certainly not just Dogface. I love this example because it's one that people will remember. It literally led to this song trending on all of the big charts like Billboard, Spotify, all that fun stuff. But this happens today now all the time. And it works both ways. Any single person who's watching this webinar today can create a post or a video that gets millions of impressions. That has never happened in the history of media distribution. Like a normal person could not go viral 10 years ago. You had to build up your following in order for enough people to see it. But the flip is true as well. If you are a person or a brand who has a lot of followers, who has a lot of subscribers, but your content is not relevant, no one's going to see it. You can have 10 million followers, and if your video is terrible, it gets 10,000 impressions. A personal anecdote, my father-in-law, who did read Day Trading Attention, recently did a Facebook post that got 150,000 impressions. And
that's incredible.
It was amazing.
What was it about?
It was about my brother-in-law's engagement. And he has like 2,000 friends.
Wedding content
crushes. And we were looking into like, why was it the tags? And why I think that this posted particularly well is it's celebrating intercultural love, which is something a lot of people want to do right now. He got a lot of comments that shows the algorithm that people want to see it. So just a small personal anecdote to say, this is not just Dogface. This could literally be anyone, but it happens on both sides. We're no longer living in the follower era. We are living in the interest-based algorithm era. And that means as a brand, you need to show up differently. So let's go to the next slide. This is our little framework for the attention economy and how it all sort of feeds. We're not going to go through every single little piece of it, but this is very core to what we do at Vayner and what we've been doing for many years. When we were chatting this slide with a couple of clients, they're like, you guys showed me this 10 years ago. And we're like, yeah, because it's actually still right. All starting with this idea of building different cohorts, because one message is not going to fit the entirety of the United States or the entirety of the world anymore. Multiple messages, multiple pieces of content. And when that content does well, really supercharging it. Nick, having worked in the creative department, the account department, the production department, never the media department?
Never the media department.
Okay, never the media department yet. Talk to me about how you see this flywheel kind of working.
Yeah, I think what's fun about this is that what used to be a bifurcated process of we have a strategy team and a creative team and a production team working in silos and then coming together at some point. Now we need to integrate all of these pieces. So the strategist is being informed by the way the creative is performing, and they're using those insights to feed to the creative and production teams simultaneously, so that they're creating things that are relevant and in the moment, because we don't have the luxury of waiting 2 or 3 weeks anymore for a brief. We need to operate and move at the speed of culture, which changes every day. If you look at any one of your feeds today, you'll recognize trends that are consistent to that day, that week, and then all of a sudden, within a week's time, the moment is over. And what's really interesting is these things move so quickly that sometimes it's even hard to remember what is currently on trend or of the moment, or name something that happened 2 weeks ago. But it, I think, further substantiates the importance of having an integrated team on the strategy, creative, and production front that can move quickly enough to not just hop on trends, but activate in a way that is truly unique and authentic to your brand. This isn't about just hopping on the trending song of the day. This isn't just about doing the trending video of the day. This is about finding ways to deploy a strategy that is actually authentic to your brand or your company or your personal brand and experience.
Let's talk about this from a personal brand perspective, because I think you're exactly right. We're very familiar with how to bring this model to life for Fortune 500s, but for individual personal brands, Nick, you were also on the Vayner talent team.
Yeah.
Is the same model, does it work?
Yeah, I think the exciting thing about building a personal brand today is, we see this a lot in CPG with the celebrity co-founder. The arbitrage that you can get by having a face that can communicate messages to the end consumer in layman's terms, or frankness, or brash, or just being true and authentic, is such a competitive advantage today in the social landscape. The humanness is something that consumers are really, really dying for. They want to see product reviews from everyday people. They want to see testimonials of experiences from people that have actually lived it. And if you're building a personal brand today, I often come into this conundrum where people don't feel they have the authority or the expertise to talk on a given.
You don't personally have that conundrum.
Never, because you have to realize that at the end of the day, you don't need a degree from Wharton, or you don't need a certain level of accreditation to authentically share your experience with a product, a conference, to authentically explain what is going on, or your interpretation of something doesn't require the accreditation that you think it might. So getting out of your own way to kind of just authentically communicate is probably one of the biggest roadblocks that I see with people when they're trying to create or build a personal brand. But that is the great unlock.
Yeah, I think that the era of personal brand building on social has clearly arrived, and it's not just celebrities. It can be any normal person. It can be someone who has a passion for a topic. They don't even have to be beautiful or look a certain way, right? Like, it's all about that authentic delivery and creating something that's distinctive that people want to follow along with. To me, one of the biggest lessons that brands can take away from how creators are succeeding is that creators are sharing a lot.
Yeah.
It's not just one message. You look at the visual on this slide, like, everyone thinks like, oh, it's the Super Bowl, which it is. Yes, it is the Super Bowl for one day a year. But the attention does not just live on that TV, it lives on here. And that is where people are spending 3 hours a day. Creators share a lot. Is that part of their strategy? And do you think that it would work for them to just do like one message a week?
No, I think, and to your point, they're not just sharing their point of view on the geopolitical space. They're sharing their makeup routine. They're sharing their dietary behaviors. They're sharing their travel. They're sharing their ambitions personally and professionally. They're sharing their relationship. And it's this kind of textured experience that they're creating for the consumer, end user, the fan, the follower, that deeper integrates them into their experience. So how do we apply that on the brand side? Well, it's all of the mundane stuff that you would never, ever think to share with your consumer. It's the behind the scenes. I'll give you a personal brand experience. I have a friend who runs a travel concierge program and business. And they started to videotape the behind the scenes phone calls of just the crazy requests that they get.
Oh, she's viral.
Yes. So she's from, less than a few thousand to, I think she's approaching 500,000 in the past 3 months. Now, this is an experience, meaning any person in a service-oriented business taking a call with a client. This is something that we do maybe tens, sometimes hundreds of times a day. We never think to share that experience. And she thought to share it. And guess what? People are wildly interested. Yes, that's right.
I love that. That's such a great example of everyone has ridiculous things. I wish I could record some of my client calls.
You definitely could.
Whether I would get fired.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's a perfect example of it can be niche things. And I feel like niche works for brands as well as it works for creators. Of course, like the hero alignment with football, alignment with soccer, alignment with Cardi B works, but so does building within these niche communities and really starting to participate there. Nick, as someone who has done a lot in the world of brand activations or on cultural moments, what do you think, how do you think that feeds into our beliefs on day trading attention?
Yeah, the experience, it's twofold here. Obviously, we've watched the rise of the experience economy in a post-COVID world.
Oh, big time.
That everybody wants to cash in on. And we've seen kind of the ebb and flows of whether it's concert sales or, massive 50 plus concert tours from Beyonce or Taylor Swift, and the economic impact that will have on entire economies. So that's part one of, I think, this experience economy. The second part, though, is this idea of utilizing events for content. And that's what we see with our friends over at Tarte when they host trips for influencers, and then the entire trip becomes an ecosystem for the brand to show up in feeds, and they use the entire experience that they're creating as their campaign or production shoot. And I think that's a really, really interesting one for a lot of brands, entrepreneurs, people that are thinking, even your team offsite on the personal brand side. How do you use these events or cultural moments as let's call it as a lifeline for content for your brand?
Yeah, and I think that it's a perfect tie-in to day trading attention, because what are people talking about right now? They're talking about the US Open, they're talking about tennis.
Can you share a little bit about how we turned a kind of a client entertainment experience at the US Open into content for VaynerMedia?
Absolutely. We really tried to drink our own Kool-Aid, to eat our own dog food, whatever that saying is. And we really try to live day trading attention ourselves as marketers. At the end of the day, for Vayner, we're marketing to businesses, right? We're marketing to chief marketing officers, VPs of marketing, and those people like tennis too, and they like knowing what's cool too. And we typically do different client entertainment experiences as Vayner, where we'll host folks for different things. And about a year or two ago, we started to use these as our own types of shoots, where we'll ask some of our clients, what can marketers learn from the beautiful game of tennis? Yeah. What are some of their favorite brand activations at the US Open? And I was just looking, we hosted 24 incredible marketing leaders last week at the US Open, did a really fun boat experience with our friends at Barton and Gray. Shout out to our friends at US Open who took incredible care of us. But not only did we host them, but we also filmed various pieces of content that were asking them different marketing questions. And it's awesome to see those get hundreds of thousands of impressions on LinkedIn, because yes, those 24 people had a great time, but now hundreds of thousands of people can now understand their insights and make that connection between Vayner and marketing and tennis, or whatever the case is. It could be the Taylor Swift concert. It could be a million different ways we try to show up in culture, because we know marketers need to be where culture is to understand how to insert their brands there, whether they're representing a spirit brand or a bank or an insurance company. Connecting to culture in those moments helps them break through and be relevant with their consumer segmentations.
That's right. And it's so fun to think about all of the trends. I think where a lot of marketers or brands kind of get caught, or even personal brands, is that sometimes there's an inauthentic nature into the way that they show up. So don't get caught not knowing a single Taylor Swift song if you're going to present to the Swifties as a true fan. Don't get caught without truly understanding what K-pop is, but hopping on the K-pop trend. And I think, to Avery's point, the due diligence of actually showing up in these environments and spending the time to get to know the fandom the trends, why it's important and why it holds such reverence in the minds of consumers and fans is equally as important as putting out the piece of content.
Absolutely. And also the piece of content, if you don't have that homework done, then you're not going to show up in the right way. And the piece of content is not going to be good.
That's right.
You can't just logo slap these days. Consumers sniff that out so quickly, and they'll jump into the comments and they'll call you out or whatever the case is, or they'll be like, that's awesome, I love this, if it's well done. And we're also in this big era where citizen journalists are everywhere across all various platforms. So if they see something that they like, they'll jump onto it, they'll critique it. They see something they don't like, they'll be just as fast to grab their mini mic.
Yeah, it's so fun too. Again, back to the speed of all of this. At the US Open the other night, Taylor Fritz, who is an athlete that's sponsored by Hugo Boss, had his bandana upside down. So it said Saab, and he lost to Novak in straight sets, I believe, or 3-4. And they took that cultural moment in terms of him wearing the bandana backwards. And then they did a post acknowledging how great his effort was, and that he'll be back next year. But the entire internet was like, does Taylor know that he has his bandana on backwards and upside down? And this fun kind of string of content came out of a moment, and then consumer feedback online. And then within a 24-hour period, Taylor was able to kind of hop on it. Hugo Boss was able to turn a negative of their player exiting the tournament into a positive of them reinforcing their belief in him. And I just think you've got to realize that that's how fast these things happen.
I think speed, if you have to summarize day trading attention in one word, to me, it would be speed. Yeah. It's speed of knowing when to participate, knowing when to jump into something, also knowing when not to, because not every trend is right for every brand. To your energy, Nick, I think oftentimes people try to trend jack too much and it comes across as very inauthentic, but knowing when to participate, how to participate, and acting quickly is a real struggle for many of our brand partners. And you know this too, because there's layers of approval. We got our legal friends. There's different parties who need to sign something off. But if you wait too long, if they waited 4 days, the moment's over.
It's over. But I think what's the most telling about that is that you just have to fight the good fight, and you can't get completely disenfranchised by sometimes the layers of approval. You got to continue to show up, because one of them could change the trajectory of your brand or business.
Absolutely. So that is a perfect way to wrap up the first edition of the Day Trading Attention Book Club. For those who maybe didn't want to spend the $20 on the audiobook or the book, but do want to spend a couple hours watching these sessions, we are going to be doing a fun giveaway because it is back to school season. We have a Day Trading Attention seeding kit. So if you want to share your key insights from today's webinar on LinkedIn and tag us, we're going to have this very epic Day Trading Attention seeding kit, which will be gifted out to a few of you all. This has not only the book, but a scented apple candle from our friends at Sniff, a custom cup from our new clients at Yeti. Thank you, Yeti. We have a Day Trading Attention Day Trader nameplate. We have a ring light. There's some cute stuff that goes in there. So if you are interested in this, tag us, tell us what you thought, tell us what you want to hear more of, because we are going to be unpacking this book. Though this came out last year, it is still super relevant today. Yesterday, I was doing a presentation in Columbus, Ohio, don't be jealous, for one of our big partners. And this book is just as relevant today as it was then, maybe even more so. So take the time to read it, to understand it, whether you're an entrepreneur, you are an executive, you're a brand manager, and you're like, what are these Vayner folks talking about? Read this big purple book. I promise you will get something out of it, and we will see you next week. Nick, thank you very much.
Thank y'all.